This is from LostHorizons.com appendix. First, a pleasant report. Although cracking the code contains several warnings that those who start up and act in accordance with the real requirements and limitations of the law can expect to meet with strenuous and nearly lawless resistance from the government, I have been pleasantly surprised in this regard. Shortly after the book first went to print, I became the first American in history to secure a refund of Social Security and Medicare contributions, along with everything else withheld. When my own federal refund claim for 2002 was properly honored. Since then, tens of thousands of CTC readers from across America have risen to uphold the law, and the vast majority have also enjoyed law-abiding responses from both the federal and many state governments. The amounts recovered have ranged from as little as 78 cents to over 130,000 in one refund. I'm reading from LostHorizons.com, the appendix of First, a Pleasant Report, from the author of Cracking the Code. Nonetheless, I do not intend to revoke or even modify that warning. Some readers have been targeted by obnoxious tax agencies' efforts to confuse and discourage claimants. Happily, the number subjects to these efforts are small, and even among this group, it often turns out that the real focus or pretext for the agency attention is some pre-CTC bad practice that resists being undone or has residual consequences. This tax agency behavior has remained within the law, but it demonstrates a deliberate, if increasingly frantic, government's policy of resistance to the inconvenient truth. In a few cases, these efforts have taken the form of misapplication of the frivolous return statute and discussed in about 1040s and claimants' refunds. A few other readers have been treated to a variety of other more inventive, if utterly corrupt, efforts to discourage their claims. For instance, some have received a notice declaring an appealable disallowance of claim because you based your claim on your erroneous view that wages and salaries do not constitute taxable income. Of course, nothing could be further from the truth. Readers of Cracking the Code are perfectly aware that wages are income and would never suggest otherwise. What these claimants have actually asserted, of course, is that their earnings are not wages, quite a different thing altogether. Unable to challenge or dispute such assertions, but unwilling to admit defeat, the government is falling back on its childish pretense that it misunderstands what is being said. In fact, pretenses of misunderstanding and mischaracterization is the foundation of all tax agency efforts to discourage or throw out the CTC-educated Americans. Needless to say, the government's finding it necessary to mischaracterize and claim it wishes to throw out serves to underscore the accuracy of the knowledge upon which that claim is based. It is highly significant and should be lost on no one that the government's response is not to simply declare the claimant's earnings to be wages, or to declare those earnings to be income, or simply to declare them taxable, regardless of labels, which is certainly would do if these things were true, or would declare regardless of the truth if possessed of the power to do so. Although these mischaracterizations are accompanied by a fair bit of bluster, they are devoid of legal substance. See this page for extensive discussion of the subject. Indeed, the nature of these governments' efforts to prop up schemes in the face of informed American public simply validates the aptness of my Alice in Wonderland motif, however corrupt the motivation which informs them. These efforts are those of the paper-thin pack of cards which, at the end, Alice disdainfully recognizes her tremendous tormentors to be. Still, again and again, the most typical governmental response to these filings of those who have studied CTC is a scrupulous paper capitation to the requirements of the law. The concrete manifestations of these pleasing responses can be enjoyed here. This is from LostHorizons.com, appendix on a pleasant report. Now, the real reason you came to this page, which is newhorizons.com. Pardon the pronunciations. Here's a concise summary of the meaning of income. Remuneration, either immediate or deferred, paid by the federal government, including but not confined to wages. See below. Benefits paid by the federal government, the process of and from federal United States corporations or instrumentalities such as national banks, railroads, etc. The process of and from the conduct of a trade or business, the performance of the functions of a public office. Proceeds mean any form of related payment or gain, including, for example, dividends paid to stockholders, etc. To invest in an activity is to engage in that activity. Definition of wages. Remuneration in any kind and by any name, including salary, fee, etc. Paid to any employee, see below, and to others in positions in federal, civil, or military service. Definition of employee, a federal government worker or office holder. Workers and office holders of the local governments of the District of Columbia and the territories and possessions. Workers of office holders of any federal, DC, or territorial or possessions government agency or instrumentality. Office of any federal corporation. So the definitions, as you can see, they don't mean the same thing that we think they mean. Basically, all the definitions, the income, if you say you're earning income, you're definitely part of a federal government, therefore you need to pay taxes on there. If you call yourself that you're getting wages, your wages are part of federal government. If you call yourself an employee, you're part of a federal government, therefore you need to pay taxes on those wages. So in order not to get in the federal government's definition of the words that they use and thus be liable on the federal to pay taxes, here's some questions that you might be asked. Are you self-employed? No, I wish to remain private in my affairs. Or the more politically correct answer would be, what contract do you allege in my performance of a public office? Because if you're self-employed, you're considered to be employed by the federal government. Do you own a trade or a business? I work for a private interest. Do you have earned income? If you say you have earned income, therefore it's federal and you owe taxes on that. And how much? The answer should be 0 and no, I wish to remain private in my affairs. Are you a U.S. person? I'm an American and one of the people of, and name your state. Are you an employee? The answer should be, I work for the XYZ company. If you allege or state that you're an employee, it makes you a federal government employee and you're gonna have to pay taxes on the federal wages that you're earning if you call yourself an employee. So those are some definitions that are in that we should know when we file taxes.